राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। 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 यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। राधा माधव यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जयम विष्णुपद परमहंस प्रभुजगाचार्य अष्टोत्तरशत श्री श्रीमद श्री अभय चंद्रानंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्रील ठाकुर हरिदास की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा देवी की जय। यमुना मई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी रानी की जय। भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ISKCON BBT संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदी। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki Avirbhav Mahotsav ki jai. Gau Premanandi. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidanandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavadayate. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai. Such an auspicious occasion. We get to celebrate the divine appearance in this world of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, who did so much service. We really can't even begin to estimate how much he's done for all of us. Usually, when we hear the name Bhaktivinoda Thakura, what comes to your mind? Let me hear something. What comes to your mind when you hear the name of Bhaktivinoda? Huh? Bhajans. And? Yes, this is another thing. What else? So much preaching, ideal grihastha, Jagannath Puri temple management. He was a busy man, devotee. So anyway, we have so much to learn from Bhaktivinoda, and we're indebted to him for so many reasons. Usually it seems to me that the bhajans is a little bit heavy emphasis when we hear the name of Bhaktivinoda Thakura, but actually he wrote some amazing things in terms of pure Krishna conscious philosophy, original things, original works, both in Sanskrit, did you know that? And also in Bengali, so many things. He wrote, he published a scholarly edition of Padma Purana. He had to look at many different manuscripts, that's what they do. And many other works he published. He wrote his own works as well, philosophical works, devotional works, ritual works even, he's done something. And we're just very indebted to him for so many things. Did you know he wrote a book that attacks and destroys Buddhist philosophy? Buddhism is a little bit popular in the modern world. So we can take shelter from him for that also. What else did he write? He has so many things. So there's one book that he wrote in Sanskrit called Amnaya Sutra, philosophical work in which he discusses various aspects of Krishna consciousness. And I'm just going to take one of those sutras, number 74, because it's very, very relevant for our own Krishna consciousness. I'm assuming here, pardon me for doing so, that most of us are at the stage of anartha nivritti. Mostly, we're making some attempt at anartha nivritti, and people usually spend their whole life doing that, actually. We often forget that, there's a goal here, there's a sadhya for which our sadhana is meant, and we should move through this. But it's a tough stage, it's true. But the instructions of Bhaktivinoda Thakura make it much easier, as easy as it can be. And he himself is indebted, clearly, to Srila Rupa Goswami, because in Sutra 74, in terms of explaining what he's written, he refers to Rupa Goswami, at least the first half of Upadeshamrita, the verses he's quoting. He also talks about this 4 seed verses, Bhagavatam, in 4 seed verses, and he mentions the 10 offenses that are there in the Padma Purana, which he published, and so many other things we'll hear. But the Sutra 74 of Amnaya Sutra from Bhaktivinoda Thakura, which he wrote himself in Sanskrit, Surupanavapti asat trishnaparadha hridaya daurbalyaniti anarthascha chaturvidhaha. There are 4 kinds of anarthas that he tells us about. Who knows what they are offhand? Anyone? Want to raise your hand?
Sex desire?
Okay, that's obviously included. Let's listen carefully. Yeah, Hridaya Daurbalyam. Krishna has something to say about this in Bhagavad Gita, doesn't he? What does he say? Anybody know the verse? Chapter 2, text number 3. Hridaya dorbalyam tyaktotishta parantapa. Yeah, what is it? There's a word. Kshudram. Kshudram hridaya dorbalyam tyaktotishta parantapa. Give up this petty weakness of heart. Petty. Kshudram. Just like in music, we have Shastriya Sangeet, and we also have Kshudra Sangeet. So, lightweight things. This isn't not significant in this world. If you go to America or European countries, it's very big now, and even here in India it's caught on because, anything they do in the West, the Indians have to follow, right? There are a certain class of people who identify themselves in exclusive relation to their sexual preference. Gay, lesbian, transgender, adi. There's so many, I mean, this is sick ignorance. This is really sick ignorance. And anyway, so surupanavapti. Failing to grasp, failing to attain your own ontological position, your own swarupa. Swarup means your essential, what you are, in fact. So swarupa anavapti. This is the first thing that he mentions, first of the 4 anarthas that he mentions. We don't get it. We don't know who we are. Even after we hear for 20, 30, 40, 50 years that you are not your body, we still don't, I'm an American, I have to act like this. Or, whatever the attachment is. All right, so that's the first one. And what's the characteristic of that failure to grasp your own identity? That's the second one, asat trishna. You're thirsty for things that are not real. We know back in chapter 2, first thing in Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna tells us, what's the difference between real and false? Who knows the verse? You should know this the whole Bhagavad Gita is based on this verse only. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, upayorapi trishtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibhihi. The Tattvadarshis, those persons who see the truth, they have explained that if something has no sustenance, if it doesn't last forever, it's not real. And those things which cannot be destroyed, that is real. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. Without this understanding, we don't get off the ground. There are many people I know that they can quote our books better than we can. They know everything about the philosophy, but they know nothing about the philosophy at the same time, because they're not willing to personally undergo this process of sarupa avapti. So, sarupanavapti, asat trishna. Therefore, what is the characteristic of such persons? They don't budge an inch from their attachment to sense gratification. Actually, we all have this disease to one degree or another. So it's with some shame that I have to explain this or try to explain it. Asat trishna. We're hankering after things that are not actually real. Things that we have nothing to do with. Why would a pure spirit soul want to marry someone else's material body? It just doesn't make sense from a spiritual perspective. It only makes sense from the platform of ignorance, misidentity. So, when we are devotees, we can either fail to get out of that moha, fail to achieve our real true identity, or we can make advancement. But there's another major anartha that checks our advancement at every stage, and it's the main thing that causes difficulties for devotees in particular. Karmis, Gyanis, Yogis, they're in a different category, but for those who have taken the decision that I'm going to give my life to Krishna, there's only one thing that really stands in our way, practically speaking, virtually. What is that? One of these four anarchas. If you were listening carefully and understand some Sanskrit, you may have heard them. I'll read it again. Sarupa anavapti asat trishna aparadha hridaya daurbalyam. So aparadhas are a very, very formidable problem for sadhakas, those who are trying to execute sadhana bhakti. So much so that when Priyavrata Maharaj had trouble with his family, who doesn't have trouble with their family? He didn't really want to get married. We know the story because for all the same reasons that these gentlemen in orange don't want to get married. It's a big hassle. And it's entangling, and it threatens the real goal of life, which is Sarupa Bhakti. So he didn't want to get married, but he was born in a Prajapati family. So what are you supposed to do? Paradharmat swanushtitad. Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmat. Don't try to do somebody else's thing. Do your own thing according to Shastra. Not do your own thing according to your mind. But so his father and so many august personalities, Guru Janas, they had to come and convince him to get married. And what happened when he did get married? Anybody remember? Priyavrata Maharaj? The very thing he was afraid of, that happened. He did become attached. The same kind of similar thing happened to Lord Brahma even, where he was worried about becoming puffed up by engaging in all this creation management that he does. And the Lord even assured him, no, you'll be okay. And then, lo and behold, he became bewildered by it. Even on one occasion, he became so confused that he was chasing after his own daughter. Talk about Asat Trishna. So, aparadha is a major threat. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in regard to Priyavrata Maharaj, he says this, there are basically three reasons that devotees have difficulty. One reason is that the main reason is that they commit offenses. And that creates your material desires will become strengthened. And your taste for Krishna consciousness will begin lessened. Actually, we hear at the end of the first canto that so many problems come just because of mistreating great souls, especially. We'll talk more about that. That's the third kind of anarcha that we suffer from. And it's very relevant because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's point in the fifth canto is that the main thing is anarthas. Sometimes you may have some karma that Krishna just wants you to undergo. Let's say you're in Saturn period. Anybody who's been through Saturn, you know about that. Sometimes for some inscrutable reason, the Lord himself wants you to undergo difficulty. What can you do about that? Nothing. You just have to eat it if the Lord wants to give you a hard time, and sometimes he does. Who can think of some examples when Krishna himself, or Bhagavan at least himself, just his desire was to trouble his devotee? Who can think of it? It sounds counterintuitive, but it happens. It might happen to you, so you need to hear it. What's one example? Bharat Maharaj. Well, no, I don't think so, because in that case it was his own negligence, we're told, right? Bali Maharaj, we just celebrated the other day. Even after he surrendered everything, the Lord is tying him up like an animal, totally humiliating him. We heard nicely yesterday. So, yeah, that's one example. What about Jatayu? Did Jatayu win in the end? Well, yes, but only spiritually, right? He was killed by Ravana. Sometimes it happens like that, and we can't question this. The Christians have a saying about this: the Lord works in mysterious ways. So that's what Jiva Goswami emphasizes in his Sandarbhas, that the Achintya Shakti is there. Things are not always Achintya. There are things we can figure out, or at least learn, but there are some things that we will never understand also. So that's maybe one of them. Anyway, no need to dilate too much on that. We're talking about the 4 kinds of anarthas that we all suffer from. Failure to grasp our true identity, hankering after material desires, basically, offenses of various kinds, and finally, you already mentioned, hridaya dwarbalyam, weakness of heart, just not enough strength in the heart. So he explains them very nicely. He says, first of all, misidentification of the self, thirst for material things, offenses, and weakness of heart are 4 obstacles on the spiritual path. That's the translation. So, Sarupanavapti, failure to understand your own true identity, misidentification of the self. We think that we are these bodies. He quotes from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Because he quotes something, the first reference should be Shruti. That's the strongest evidence. Everybody has to accept it if they're Astika. Nastika, that's another thing. For them we have logic and other means of persuasion, such as prasadam. In the West, sometimes that's the only thing you can do. They won't listen to anything. But it works. Okay, so, swabhavam eke kavayo vadanti kalam tathanye purimuhyamana. Some thinkers say the material universe is self-manifested. Other bewildered men say time created the universe. This is his evidence. And then asat trishna, thirst for temporary unreal things, is described again, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This is 4.4.22. Yesham noyam atmayam loka iti tesma putraishanayascha vittaishanayascha lokaishanayascha vyuthayatha bhikshacharjam charanti. The wise say, the Supreme Lord is the whole world for us. Renouncing the desire to enjoy children, wealth, or anything else in this world, they become sannyasis. They accept alms. They wander over the earth. This is his evidence for asat trishna. He's giving a negative example. People who don't suffer from that problem. Aparatha, described in Ishopanishad, believe it or not. Anybody can tell me offhand, where does Ishopanishad talk about aparathas? We don't recognize this, but he's quoting, this is Asuryan nama te loka andhena tamasafrataha tans te pretyabhigachanti yeke chatma hano janaha. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the world of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. What is that? Text 9? Does anybody know offhand? There's a few of them that are very similar to that. But we can see that if you have made the choice due to Surupanavapti to chase after asat trishna, you will become an offender. It's just a matter of time. It's almost guaranteed. That's the great danger of it. Because if you commit offenses, especially to the devotees, then you're not coming back for a good long while. That is the problem. So we have to be so careful of that. He's just giving brief explanations here. And then finally, Kathopanishad, he quotes, regarding Hridaya Daurbalyam, weakness of heart is described 2.1.2. Parachakaman rayanti balas te mrityoryanti vitatasya pasham. Childish fools who desire material pleasures run into the noose set by death. Yamaraj, he's holding the pasha, right? Ropes. What are they for? They're for us. And if we're not careful, very easily we can become ensnared, and then we're going wherever he takes us. And once you die, once you leave this body, you have no more choices to make. It's already written by dint of your activities where you're going. We have to be so careful in life. Even you have the best of intentions like Maharaj Nriga, still you can end up in the wrong place. It's so touchy. So this is human life. It's responsible. Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 7th chapter, text 44 and 5. I'm just going to quote the English. Since the body itself is ultimately meant to become stool or earth, what is the meaning of paraphernalia related to the body, such as wives, residences, wealth, children, relatives, servants, friends, kingdoms, treasuries, animals, and ministers? They're also temporary. What more can be said? That is a sat trishna. And all this paraphernalia is very near and dear as long as the body exists. But as soon as the body is destroyed, all things related to it are also finished. Therefore, actually, one has nothing to do with them. But because of ignorance, one accepts them as valuable. What's the most valuable thing you can have in this world? Everybody's going through their mental Rolodex, just trying to, somebody wants gold, somebody needs prestige, somebody else has to have a wife, somebody else, this, adi. All the things that Yamaraj offered to, who was it, Shvetaketu, in the, is it Kena Upanishad? Katha Upanishad, I think Katha Upanishad, to tempt him away from his dedication to self-realization. This is the stock and trade of Yamaraj. These are the nooses, the ropes by which he enslaves us, ensnares us. So, but none of these things really have any value for us as pure spirit souls. This is why we always, not we, but Prabhupada always emphasizes in his preaching that you're not this body. Why does he quote on practically every third page in full, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam? Because we don't get it so easily. We don't preach like this. There's a big difference between the way that we preach and the way that Srila Prabhupada preaches. We have to appreciate that. We have to study it. We have to emulate it. That's when we make advancement. Anyway, Chaitanya Charitamrita also, Jnane Jivan Mukta Dasha Paino Karimane Vastutaha Buddhi Shuddha Nahe Krishna Bhakti Vine. There are many philosophical speculators belonging to the Mayavad school who call themselves Narayana. However, their intelligence is not purified unless they engage in Krishna's devotional service. Kama tyaji Krishna bhaje shastra ajnamani. If a person gives up all material desires and completely engages in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, as enjoined in the revealed scriptures, he's never indebted to sages, demigods, not to commit offenses to the Lord. Well, we'll hear about this because Bhaktivinoda Thakura explains each of these four kinds of anarthas in great detail in his Bhajana Rahasya. And it's in Bhajana Rahasya that he is quoting from Upadeshamrita and other sources that are relevant to this general endeavor of anartha nivritti. So let's hear what he says. We've already said this. So, by way of explaining our general condition in this material world, what is our general condition according to the second chapter of Bhajana Rahasya? Nam nama kari buddha nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamataha smaranena kalaha etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamati. Although you've made your name so easily available for us, and although there's no restrictions about when or where you can chant the holy name, we don't do it. One devotee came to Srila Prabhupada in the old days. I don't remember if it was Hayagriva or somebody, but he told Prabhupada, I'm having trouble with sex desire. No surprise there. Everybody does. And Prabhupada said, that's no problem, you just chant Hare Krishna. And he wasn't convinced by that answer. So he told Prabhupada, I am chanting, but still, and Prabhupada just thundered back at him, no! When you have this difficulty, you don't chant. That is your problem. So this is our problem. Nanuragaha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is complaining on our behalf. The symptoms of misfortune are described in Srimad Bhagavatam 3.9.7. O my Lord, persons who are bereft of the all-auspicious performance of chanting and hearing about your transcendental activities are certainly unfortunate and are also bereft of good sense. They engage in inauspicious activities, enjoying sense gratification for a very little time. It doesn't last so long. Maybe I have 10 years left. Somebody else has some more, but you don't really even know that, right? If you ride on a cycle and you're on the main highway and the lorry drivers, you know what they do? They just, for sport, they try to knock cyclists off the highway. Because those guys are all tanked up on who knows what kind of intoxication so that they can drive for 3 days straight. So, anything can happen in this world. What is it? Nalani dalagata jalamati taralam tadvajivintem atishaya chapalam. The water on a lotus leaf is not very safe. It's unstable, very unstable. That's our position also. So for a short time in such an unstable environment, we're thinking that we're going to make plans and attain something and build empires. Empires made of sand. And they're all destroyed at the end. And in Firdi we don't learn. Time after time after time, punaha punascharvata charvananam. I did this in the last life. Did I not learn my lesson? She abused me so much last time, and now I'm chasing another one this time. Okay. So, but Vyasadeva, he had more determination than we do, and therefore Bhaktivinoda Thakura is quoting from I think it's first canto. He fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it to devotional service, and he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under his full control. He's quoting this verse we all know, Anartho pasamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje lokasya janato vidvans chakre satvata sanghita. This is why Vyas, in his samadhi, solved everything clearly, and only for us he made sure that this Srimad Bhagavatam is intact here in Kali Yuga. Only for us. Show some gratitude. It's kind of like Srila Prabhupada, who gave up his sleep every night just to make sure that we had these books should we choose to read them. I was so happy the other day when we went to do kirtan in Prabhupada's room. Every time I go past that library, I see that there are devotees in there. These are the yajanti hi sumetasa. These are the smart ones. Okay, so Vyasadeva fixed. We should also follow suit. So now he finally gets to this. He's quoting from the Amnaya Sutra, which we've already discussed, and he puts it into his own shloka here. This is Bhaktivinoda. Maya mugdhasya jivasya jneyo anarthaschaturvidhaha hriddorbalyam chaparadho asatrishna tattva vibhramaha. Same thing, same four things. He just titles them a little differently. So, these anarthas lead to material bondage, which leads to misery. First one, tattva vibhrama. This is the same thing as surupanavapti. To have a mistaken conception of what's really true. That's another way to look at it. It's kind of like, what do you call this in logic? This is called anvaya vyatireti nyaya. You cover your bases both positively and negatively. So the negative thing is surupanavapti. You don't get it. You don't understand who you are. And the positive thing is tattva vibhrama. You misunderstand the truth. So swatattve paratatve cha sadhya sadhana tattvayoho virodhi vishaye chaiva tattva brahmash chaturvidhaha. There are four kinds of this surupanavapti or tattva vibhrama. Four kinds. Let's hear what they are. Swatattva Brahm, you're bewildered about who you are yourself. Paratattva Brahm, you're confused about Krishna or his nature. That also happens. It's like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is negligible like some ordinary petty thing, Shudra Bhatin. And we think that our own concerns and desires, those things are as important as the Supreme Lord. This is our position. So the Swatattva Brahma, Paratattva Brahma. Then Sadhya Sadhana Brahma. This is a big one, isn't it? Just go on the internet and see devotees arguing all the time about the nature of Krishna consciousness, isn't it? The nature of what Prabhupada wanted, or the nature of what our teaching is, or the Tattva Paratattva. Sadhya Sadhana Brahma. We don't know what our goal is. We don't know how to get to that goal also. This is a huge, huge arena of related topics, all dealing with our own Brahma. What does Brahma mean? Confusion, bewilderment, Brahm. Brahmati. And then finally, Virodhi Vishaya Brahma. We have illusion regarding subjects that are unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. This is another big one. We think that something is favorable, but it's actually not favorable. It's pernicious. Everybody know this word, pernicious? It's a wonderful word in English. What does it mean? It's very attractive and apparently very good also, but it's actually harmful. And there are many things like that in this world, and there are many people like that also in this world. So we have to be very discriminating. Discrimination is a nasty word, especially in modern Marxist cultures. But you have to use your discrimination, and in fact, even the Marxists do, or they try. But they just won't admit it. So discrimination is the key word of Madhyama Adhikar. What does the Madhyama Adhikari have to discriminate? He has to know who is the devotee, who is the demon, who is innocent, ityadi. He has to know these things. So this is Virodhi Vishaya Brahm, illusion regarding subjects unfavorable to Krishna consciousness. So these are the 4 kinds of illusion that we have. Brahm means illusion. These are our 4 illusions. What was the previous 4 we discussed? 4 kinds of 4 kinds of anarthas. Tattva Brahma, we mentioned. Asat Trishna, Hridaya Daurbalyam, or Aparadh, yes. So now he's talking about each of them in great detail. I hope we have time to finish. I'll try to speed up here. Let's talk about, he talks about here next is Asat Trishna. 4 types of that. 4 types of improper, unreal desires. So he says, Aihikeshu ashana para trikeshu chaishana shubha bhuti vancha mamukshācha hyasat trishnas chaturvidha. So, Aihikeshu aishana. This is a fancy Sanskrit word. It just means ichha, aishana. So, desiring things in this world only. Iha. Aihika. Fancy Sanskrit adjective. So, Aihikeshu aishana. To desire things of this world. It's a kind of asat trishna, but it's distinguished from another kind. Paratrikeshu aishana. To desire things for the next life. Who's chiefly concerned with that? None of us. I think in the modern world here, in this, at least here in Jambudweep, very impious world actually. But people used to be pious. And what are the pious mundaners concerned with? About their next life? Yeah, they want to be elevated at least. At least I get another good human birth, or I go even to Svarga, if I can. That's their whole focus. Because they can't see anything higher than that, therefore it is a kind of asat trishna. Bhuti. This is, we might not guess either, we usually call it siddhi. Yeah, the yogis fall for that. Bhutis, they want some powers that they can display. Mystic powers of various kinds. Imagine, well, don't imagine too much, but you might get the mystic power of being able to control another person's mind. How many politicians would pay dearly to get that? They won't undergo the yogic discipline, but they would pay for it because it's easier to throw away money than it is to actually discipline yourself, isn't it? So, anyway, so that's paratrika ishana, desiring things in the heavenly comforts, ityadi. Bhutivancha, desire for mystic powers. They're all closely related. And then the 4th one Throughout Vedic literature, we find so many sets of 4 things that are actually sets of 3 things plus 1 more. You have 3 ashrams plus sannyas is in a transcendental category. So here you have 3 kinds of asat trishna, and the last one is, everybody remember, if you're listening closely? Aihikeshu aishana paratrikeshu chaishana shubha puti vancha mumuksha cha. Mumuksha, desiring liberation. I just want out. I want freedom from this, whatever it is. You want to get out of it, that's the desire for mukti. And it's considered asat trishna. Why would mukti, liberation, is supposedly eternal? Why would that be considered asat trishna? I can think of at least 2 reasons. Can anybody help me with one of them? Why is mukti considered to be asat trishna? Loudly, please. You don't even have to raise your hands. This is not formal. Huh? It's not eternal. What happens to the vimuktimanis, as Brahma calls them? They think they're liberated, but they fall down again. Kyon? Padanti yatha? Why? Yushmad angraya anadara. They don't have sufficient regard for the Lord's lotus feet. Therefore, their so-called mukti, it's not forever. They will fall down. It's just how long can you stay orbiting in a Sputnik around this world? This is Prabhupada gives this example, and I think it's Easy Journey to Other Planets. This, I think his name was Yuri Gagarin, maybe? First guy to go around the world. So, he was just saying when they interviewed him when he got back that, what were you thinking about up there? He said, I was just missing my Moscow. Asat Trishna. So, this is one of them. You can go around like that, you can get away from it all for some time, but after some time, what's in our heart? Hrichaya. We desire society, we desire friendship, we desire love, and there's no reason you should not have those things. But you should recognize Srupa Vapti, ki, those things are in the spiritual world, not here, where everything is asat. These are all asat trishnas. So mukti is considered for that reason, and also any non-devotional desire has to be, by definition, material. That's one definition. If it's non-devotional, it's material. And this so-called mukti is like that. All right. Now, what's the other type of problem that we're dealing with? Big anarthas? Aparad, the third one. And I'll try to finish on time. Krishna nama surupeshu tadiya chit karneshu cha Jnaya buddha ganair nityam aparadhas chaturvitha. The smart people, Bhaktivinoda Thakura says, they recognize 4 kinds of aparadha. Nama aparadha, that we know. And that's the other one, Surupa aparadha. This is, we call deity, offenses to the deity. Seva aparadha is another name for it. And Tadiya aparadha, that is called Vaishnava aparadha. Gurva aparadha would be included within that, because Tadiyanam Samarjanam is the best way to worship Vishnu. Worship his devotees. And then Chitkarneshucha aparadhas. What are those? Chitkarna. Chitkarna. What does Chitkarna mean? Karna. Karna me. Hey, I'm Bhagavan, right? We see the poster. Karna means a speck. Tiny, like one little microscopic piece of dust. PM 2.5. We're all breathing it in here in Vrindavan due to the construction going on ubiquitously here, everywhere. Delhi, the whole world. I travel all over the place and I see that everywhere there's mad construction going on. This is passion. Construction, destruction, these 2 things going on. Maintenance, not so much. All right, so anyway, Chitkana aparadha means to offend those tiny parts and parcels of the Lord. It's not just that we have to worry about offending Vaishnavas, although we have to be supremely careful of that. But we should not offend anyone, according to this definition. Chitkana is another kind of the 4 aparadhas. that he particularly dilates on here. So that's very important. We should not offend other living beings. And then finally, weakness of heart. We're in the final stretch. Hrid Darbalyam. Also of 4 types, he gives us another shloka of his own composition here. Tuchasaktihi kutinati matsaryam swapratishtata. You can understand these terms. Tuchasaktihi, to be attached to things that are just negligible things. Tucha. It's the same thing as kshudra. Why Krishna says that word, right? We already quoted. Kshudra hridaya darbalyam tyaktvo tishta parantapa. These things are very insignificant. So to be attached to such things, that is a kind of weakness of our own heart. Oh, but what will they do without me? Right? All of my family members, if I am supposed to take sannyas. People naturally worry like this. We're not impersonalists. But the fact is that there's a mission to human life, if it is truly human, and we have to fulfill that. So sometimes we have to take very difficult steps, and one of those is becoming detached. Tyakta, virakti, it's very important. He quotes some verses also about this, but tuchasakti, attachment to things that are negligible, anything non-Krishna, really, we can say. Kutinati, everybody knows this one, right? Kutinati, what does it mean? Kutinati, duplicitous behavior, right? Fault-finding, kutinati, fault-finding, duplicitous behavior, this is politics. Yes. And I'm sorry to tell you all, take it as you will, but the Indians, it seems, are the most political people on the face of the earth. Lekin, you have to give credit where credit is due. With all the cultural, linguistic, religious, and every kind of diversity that is, as much as in Europe, the Indians stayed together in one country, at least for the last 50, 70 years. That's a great credit. And culturally, the culture means Sanskriti. That means Sanatan Dharma. That is the glue that holds all living beings together. If you understand Sanatan Dharma, if you follow Sanatan Dharma, you realize what is Tattva, you don't remain in Tattva Brahma, you realize your Sarup, and you can get along with others. Lo and behold, this has practical application in life, doesn't it? It's relevant. We have to see that. All right, so kutinati is a danger. It can cause offenses most easily. So we have to be extremely cautious about that one. What's another one? Matsarya. Again, sorry Indians, I'm going to quote Dr. Kapila Vatsyayana. Anybody recognize that name? Yeah, very, very august name in the field of aesthetics and, art. And she was, I think, director of this Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Kala Kendra for some time. So उसने कहा कि भारतीय लोगों का स्थायी भाव ईर्ष्या. मतलब कि the स्थायी भाव of all Indians is envy. I didn't say it. I'm just quoting. I mean, actually, everybody's envious, and we know this. This is the philosophy. Everyone in this world, not just Indians, but she's Indian, so she sees it. That's why we have wars. That's why we, cannot tolerate one another. Sridhar Swami's definition of envy. Anybody know offhand? From the first canto. His definition of envy, you cannot tolerate to see another person rise. If another person comes up, you cannot tolerate that. It's like Prabhupada gives the example that, he's been appointed to the Supreme Court. He's the High Court judge or Supreme Court judge, but I'm sure they're not paying him. We have to seek some comfort in the guy has flaws means that I feel a little better about myself, right? This is our own Hrida Darbalyam, our own weakness of heart. If we have the pride that I'm part and parcel of Krishna, I'm a disciple of His divine grace, then we won't suffer like that. And it is suffering. All right. Matsarya is another problem. And another great one here. Swapratishtata. You try to establish yourself. Where do we see this? Social media, right? You can set up your little empire and how many followers, and you monitor who's got how many, and comparing. All nonsense. All nonsense. Asat. All asat. All these tucha things. Tucha sakti. So, swapratishta, the desire for fame. So, these anarthas, all these 4 categories of anarthas that we've been discussing, and each of them, if you've noticed carefully, each of them has another 4 set within itself. So you're dealing with 12 things that you can identify and strategize with while you have time left in this human body. Make a plan. Make a strategic plan, as they say. And consider all these things carefully. Apply them to your life. Keep it quiet. You don't have to advertise anything. But this is the mercy of Bhaktivinoda. This is just one example. Just one small sutra from the whole Amnaya Sutra. And that's just one out of nearly 100 books that he wrote for us. How many people in this room, please, show of hands? How many people in this room have read every single one of Prabhupada's books? Okay, one hand goes up. I see one hand here. Some people are shy, I'm sure. Panchagoda and yeah, okay. So 2, 3, and I'm going to assume these gentlemen. But yeah, see, we have a lot of work to do. We have no idea how little we know until we start to read and hear. Not only from Prabhupada, but on days like today especially, we can bow at the feet of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, who's situated in our temple room right now, and for the day. We can come in the midday and offer puja for his pratishtha. He deserves it. And beg that we can really take advantage of what he's given us. Why is he called Rupanugavara, the best of the Rupanugas? Gauda Shakti Sarupa. He's the embodiment of the Shakti of Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya. These are the ways in which he's glorified. Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakura. Ki Jai. So, here's the point, the conclusion that he ends this short discussion with in his Bhajana Rahasya, chapter 2. These anarthas, these 4 classes of anarthas, they give birth to 6 enemies. Who are our 6 enemies? Shatari, Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha, Matsarya. There's some overlap here, you may have noticed. So they give birth to these things. And these anarthas also beget the 6 waves that we have to suffer in material life, bodily incarceration. What are the 6 waves that we suffer? We have lust, we have shoka, lamentation, moha, bewilderment, hunger, thirst, old age, death. These things affect conditioned souls. And that would be us, in case you haven't yet noticed. So, the creeper of devotion, Bhakti Lata, the beach has been given to us. What are we doing with it? You have to plant it nicely. You have to water it. You have to make sure all the conditions are there for this thing to fructify and flourish. And the creeper of devotion can never grow as long as one cannot give up these anarthas. We're talking about a general category called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan means understanding who am I, who is God, what is our relationship, how does the world work, what's my relationship to that also. This is, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Harinam Chintamani, without that Sambandha Gyan, you cannot become free from your Namaparadhas alone. What to speak of the other aparadhas? It is absolutely imperative that we strive. The anarthas go away if we strive to rid ourselves of them. And then he's quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 1st chapter, text 14. Anybody know that? I'll give you a hint. Apanna
Apanda
Samsitim Ghoram. Yes, this is another one who reads. Apanda Samsitim Ghoram. Yannama Vivisho Grinan. When somebody is taking the holy name, Tata Sadjo Vimucheta. Yad Vibheti Swayam Bhayam. Fear itself is afraid of the holy name. And if somebody is taking the holy name, I'll just read the Prabhupada's translation. Living beings who are entangled within the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. And then he talks about, from the 11th canto, last verse I'm quoting, if you give me permission. Bhayam dvitiya bhineveshatasyad ishadapetasya viparyayo smritihi. Who can finish it? Okay, this is 11th canto, chapter 2, text 37. Tanmaya yata bhada abhajetam bhaktyayika yesham gurudeva tatma. Such a wonderful shloka. It deserves its own seminar, practically. It's that deep. What does it mean? When the living entity is attracted by the material energy which is separate from Krishna, he's overpowered by fear. Really what it means is ishad apeta. When you have turned away from God, then who becomes your companion at that point? Bhaya. Everywhere you go, you cannot get away from it. That is what happens when we become a conditioned soul. When we get into this dvitiya thing, the non-Krishna thing, then we have to suffer from fear all the time. Tanmayayato buddha abhajetam. But we should run away from this illusion by worshipping Krishna instead. And how do we do that? Bhakti aika yesham gurudeva tatma. We should take shelter of the Lord as our spiritual master, worshipable deity, and source of life. So thus we worship the Lord by the process of an unalloyed devotional service, and particularly in this age by chanting the holy name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's a small taste today of just one sutra from one book from Bhaktivinoda Thakura, just one acharya. How much we have to learn. That we should meditate on today. Bow down at the lotus feet of this great Thakur and at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, who has introduced us to Bhaktivinoda and other acharyas, and try to take advantage while we can. Anyone have any questions or comments? We'll stop here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah?
I think that's too late.
Yeah, sorry, I went a little over time. 5 minutes.
Lord Krishna created the ashrams and the varnas, and he showed by his example of having family and children and executing his desires for family life. So as living entities, we all have desires and wants, even though we're embodied. So while we're embodied, the scientific system is there that one, obviously it's best to remain brahmachari, but sometimes there's a need or a want to experience to inspiration to take care of family and do all those kind of things, and then learn by those lessons so you can genuinely renounce at the end without being or thinking that, well, maybe I missed out on something my whole life. I was frustrated and I didn't really fulfill my desires. What can repression really accomplish? How far can we really be?
It's a good point, and this is another one of the great gifts Thakur in particular has given us, because he shows us what does it mean to be a real responsible grahastha. He was not an irresponsible person. He was very busy in the temple management. How many times bigger than this temple is the Jagannath Puri temple, and he's in charge. And he's running everything, improving everything, not just running everything, but improving also. And 13 children. Raise your hand if you've got 13 children, grahasthas. 13. Not yet? Okay. So, and writing all these books, 100 books, with it over a span of 50, 60 years, 100 books he wrote, while doing all this other stuff. It's inconceivable, to me at least. But this is a great example that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us for those who really have no choice. but to be married. Some people, that's what they have to do. Women in particular. Prabhupada liked it when the women were married. So it's a very necessary part. In fact, the majority of those who are participating in the varnashram system, they will be grihastas. So we need acharyas like this. He's given us a great example. Yeah, repression can't really accomplish anything, so restriction is the answer. You engage your senses with their objects, but in a restricted manner under the guidance of proper authority, not whimsically. This is the point. That's the principle. Anything else? Then we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura, ka Avirbhav Mahotsav ki jai. Go Preman.
So 1:45, is it? What time?
I forget what they said.
1:45?
No.
12:45? 12:45 there'll be bhajans and then ceremony for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai.